So hello fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. So I'm talking today about Joe Rogan's guest, Mr. Tim Pool. And Mr. Pool apparently, if I am not mistaken, he drove for 4 days to get to Joe Rogan. Joe was impressed by this. And Mr. Poole told him that he has driven all over America, all across America. And I thought that was, in some ways it was cool, and in other ways I feel a little bit overwhelmed. I mean, so many places, so much time spent on the road. That's a lot to try to take in and to feel. Not that he says that he understands America, but everybody feels like they understand wherever they are, because they've spent so much time around the people that they've been around. But I don't think anybody can ever grasp 320 odd million people, but still. So eventually, and one of the things that stood out to me was Mr. Poole. He had one of these names that if you utter this name on the podcast, they will remove your video, he said. He said he had done it himself. And based on everything else, I don't think that I would doubt the veracity in terms of, okay, he's just a quack kind of deal. So maybe, apparently this guy worked for the CIA or something. And if you uttered that name, Joe wanted to see what the name was, and I don't think in the end they uttered that name of he who should not be named. But it was interesting. Aside from that, Mr. Poole felt that, like a lot of people on social media, YouTube is social media, you have to have an account, you can talk to other people, etc. Yeah, it's for video, but I think a lot of things have what we would call convergence. Things start out somewhat different, like Facebook might seem different to Instagram, might seem different to WhatsApp, might seem different to YouTube. But then a bunch of different features start coming in and things start to converge to the point where you have communities, etc. that happened. Anyway, like a lot of people in different communities, Mr. Poole was not very happy with Facebook and Twitter and all of these people. And of course, Joe was more than happy to an extent, I have to give it to Joe, more than happy to chime in and agree that, yeah, they tend to come down harder on conservative voices. Why? I don't understand. These two guys are supposed to be liberal guys, but they seem so interested in the causes of poor conservatives. I think whichever side you're on, you can feel a certain amount of I suppose, people coming after you. But on the whole, I guess, I would say in many instances that there is more liberals on TV than there are conservatives. Maybe. I think that there's an impression that that's the case. I think someone has to do a study, but I think that and maybe it's just they've already done it and it's just to be Googled. But I think there's that impression that you won't find as many conservative people in mainstream media. I think what happened to Ellen, when it happened, the fact that it, in many ways, it still is happening. Or is it that we've seen women kiss? Well, it's not that many gay people around, to be honest. I mean, I think it's not even 10%, but people who identify as gay, like male gay people, and maybe, I'm sorry, to me anybody who's same sex is gay. So if gay just means male straight people, male homosexual people, I'm sorry, but I think people still have to worry about that to an extent. Anyway, with respect to Mr. Poole, as I was saying, Joe Rogan did come up. He did kind of push back against Poole in terms of the fact that Mr. Poole, thought that there was somebody at YouTube who was screening his stuff that he puts out, which seems to be a lot of stuff every day. He says 3 hours worth of content, I think over 3 different channels every day that he puts out. Wow, that's a lot. Obviously, that can't be edited. But his videos, especially the ones that included anything to do with COVID, they had gone out and they were fine, and then afterwards, as an example, I guess everything related, COVID related, got struck, and he was upset with that. And then he was upset with the idea that anything that he said along the lines of COVID-19 might be manufactured disease was apparently demonetized, whereas other people on CNN could come out and say whatever they wanted along those lines. And well, I don't know if he knows whether their videos are demonetized or not, or what the situation is, but apparently anything that he says, even if he says somebody else on CNN says it, I think we were getting into the weeds here with respect to what is an authoritative source. And he was saying, oh, now I remember. Basically, Mr. Poole seems to agree with another piece that I put out that said that somebody probably owes Elon Musk an apology. Apparently, again, as I would have put in this piece, somebody came out saying that Musk didn't actually donate these ventilators that he said that he would. Whereas Mr. Musk, he said, listen, you can search in Twitter. And apparently he came out with all of these tweets whereby he had given the institutions kind of exactly what they wanted, if I'm understanding. So they asked for things like sleep apnea related devices and so on, and that's what he gave them. So then I don't know if it's a CNN reporter or a Wall Street Journal reporter or who, basically they wanted to prove that he said he was giving ventilators, and that's not what he gave, even though, and if I'm going by what Mr. Poole said, that Elon gave them what they asked for. So he had instructions from the institutions that he donated things to as to what they preferred and what they wanted, which, as I was saying in the piece, were things that were more important than ventilators, at least according to research that had come out from different areas. I will agree with Mr. Poole in that, yeah, the media, and I guess he was having trouble with the fact that this was an authoritative source when the only thing they seemed to want to do was to create friction for Mr. Musk, as in to prove their point, even though their point was somewhat meaningless in that, yes, he didn't give what he said that he was going to give. He gave what was asked for and what was, the people were thankful for his donations. So where's the complaint? He was saying that a lot of his content might get flagged, whereas these other people were just trying seemingly to create mischief. They were authoritative sources. Now, they went into a little bit more of a discussion where they were saying stuff like anything that comes out of the WHO, Twitter, or I think it was Twitter, treats it or wanted to treat it as authoritative, and anybody who contradicts it, they were going to get demonetized, or their post was going to get taken down. I think this might have been Reddit as well they were talking about. And Mr. Poole was saying, well, look, and this is a point to me that was very important. He's saying, well, look, the WHO went back and forth on what they said. They flip-flopped. And I'm like, listen, according to the tweet, and this is a tweet that that Joe himself talks about, where he says, Donald Trump's son tweeted or retweeted that the WHO said that according to China, there was no evidence of human-to-human transmission at a particular time, right? And they were coming out and saying, they were using that to say, well, look, WHO is going back and forth. Listen, at the end of the day, they don't seem to have a problem with the fact that Donald Trump on different issues would have gone back and forth. Right? They would say stuff like, hey, why is Nancy Pelosi picking on Donald Trump? When at that time, nobody knew that this was going to be a serious issue. Yeah, nobody knew. The WHO is not based in China or Wuhan, so they didn't know either. But as more information became available, they were able to speak more definitively and to speak with more certainty about these things. So when Mr. Trump does it, and you don't have any problem with it, when it's the WHO that does it, you guys have a problem with it. And then, of course, what seems to be really important to Joe and Mr. Poole was that this whole fiasco where the WHO representative, he did not want to speak about Taiwan. Apparently, and I think I saw the video or part of it, somebody wanted him to say Taiwan. And he, apparently it seems like, he cut the interview on his end. And when they got into contact with him, the person wanted to talk about Taiwan again. And he's like, no, we already talked about it. And basically just wanted to quash anything related to speaking about Taiwan. And it was really important for Joe and Mr. Poole to talk about, why are they beholden on to China? Why are they letting China change them? Hey, there are certain things that are important. Number one is you really need the WHO representative to say Taiwan. I don't understand why that is so important. Yes, it's a sad situation, I think. The idea that China wants to say that it's one China and it's okay, it's democracy over here and there's another system over here, but it's one China. I don't see, well, for one thing, it was one China. There was a civil war in China and the Democratic Party escaped to Taiwan. You don't escape to another country that you're not in control of. So the Democratic Party and the Democrats were in charge of China. They were not able to defeat the communists in China. The communists won, and the Democratic side escaped to Taiwan. Obviously, they were in charge of Taiwan as the leaders of China. If China and Taiwan were under the same control, that's how you could go there. I don't know that they begged anybody to enter Taiwan. And as far as I know, they subjugated the natives there as well, the indigenous people there, who probably still are subjugated to an extent in terms of the Chinese people that left. But how is it a separate country now? When it was under the Democrats, it was one country, and now it's a different country. And I understand that they have their own system now, and if I was over there, I would definitely want democracy. I would definitely want something similar if I was in Hong Kong, most definitely. I don't know that it's a hard call, and I really probably should make a separate piece on this. But my point is, and this is another thing, and I'm glad this guy brought it up to a degree. He says, with respect to China, he thinks there'll probably be a war with China and the US, because out of, I think, 16 different encounters where an old power is facing a conflict with an up-and-coming new power, i.e. China, 12 out of those 16 cases in the past 500 years or some period of time ended up in a war. Yeah, there might be a war. And I know on the side of don't get me wrong, I don't want to be subjugated in any way at all. And I might sound like I'm agreeing with China because there's certain things that you are against certain things, and when somebody else does them, you kind of have to still be, when your side does them, sometimes you still have to say, listen, that thing is wrong. And if something is right and your side does it and then the other side does it, it's still right sometimes. It depends. But sometimes right is right. And that's kind of what I'm talking about in this particular case with respect to the fact that Taiwan was under Chinese ownership or possession. So for Taiwan to try to break away now and say, oh, we're Taiwan and we're democratic, it's kind of like Catalonia. I think it's Catalonia in Spain. They want to become independent, and it's not working out. It's not working out over there. And I don't see the international community coming down and saying, yeah, Spain should let this other country break away. I'm not seeing that happening. Likewise, there's a lot of things that we kind of just take as, hey, that's normal. So people would say, for example, yeah, well, the U.S. Has warships passing through the South China Sea. And, China has problems with that. And they did. What is it like? I wonder how would it feel for Americans to have another country with warships just, in the Atlantic, in the Pacific, in wherever it is, just all over the place. Just because America has, as far as I know, has 11 aircraft carriers, and the rest of the world has maybe 2 or 3, and they're pretty useless. They're not really much of anything. If there were no other aircraft carriers in the world, then yeah, they'd probably be impressive. But seeing as what a U.S. aircraft carrier entails, they come up lacking a lot. And for most of us, we're just like, yeah, that's what happens. The U.S. has, planes, trains, and automobiles all over the place. And when we think of China, we think, oh my God, scary. Russia, oh my God, scary. That's, I don't know. I don't know how to say everything that I want to say in the way that I want to say it, but there's a lot of stuff that we accept now to be, yeah, it's okay. We trust the U.S., but not China. And I don't know why that's okay when America's done, as even Trump has said, America's done some mean stuff. So anyway, I wish me luck. So you can like or unlike, comment, share, subscribe. Yeah, I think that's it. Thanks. Peace.